People loved to claim they were descendants of the witches they couldn't burn. We actually were. Our ancestors literally could not be set on fire. Neither could we. My sisters and I were elemental witches, and fire was ours to command. The veil between worlds was thin in Salem, and we belonged to the order of witches duty-bound to keep the monsters at bay. We were the Veil Keepers. Yep, the witches were the ones that kept Salem safe. Ironic, right? It had always been that way, too. Good thing my ancestors couldn't burn, or this town, and everything around it, would have been screwed 6 ways to Sunday a long, long time ago. Of course, they didn't burn witches in Salem. Everyone knew that. They hanged them here, pressed one of them to death, but my family originated in England. Back in the 1600s, my great-great, who knows how many greats-grandma was tied to a stake and set on fire. Well, the wood around her was set ablaze. The flames incinerated her clothes, and when the inferno extinguished, Granny stood there, naked and unscathed, laughing at the astonished looks on their faces. Man, I would have loved to have seen that. She might or might not have set the village on fire to make her escape. The details didn't matter. The important thing was that we were here in our little shop on the edge of downtown, preparing to take out yet another horde of monsters to keep safe the very people who would have murdered us 400 years ago. Fun times. My sister Ember laid her forearm across the table, and I dipped my needle into the enchanted ink. Closing my eyes, I focused my energy, drawing from the goddess and infusing the sigil I was about to create with my vim. You're raiding a vampire nest, right? So, speed and strength? With my fingers wrapped firmly around the grip, I pressed the tip of the needle against her skin and drew the first line. Vampire ghouls, but yeah. Ick. There were 2 different levels of vamps in the world. First, the so-called normal kind who could pass as humans. They still fried in the sunlight, but at night, a mundane wouldn't know them from one of their own. The other kind, ghouls, were disgusting. Imagine if a zombie and a vampire had a baby and the zombie traits were the dominant ones. Mindless, blood-sucking monsters. My lip curled at the thought. Throw in a bit of protection and I'll be set. Ember smiled, but her eyes were tight. I pressed a little harder, clenching my teeth. You know I don't do those. She winced. You could. I can't. I wish you had more self-confidence. You broke the family curse for Hecate's sake. That much was true. Another witch cursed our bloodline centuries ago. The 3rd daughter of every Holland mother would die in infancy. Once birth control became a thing, our ancestors stopped after 2 kids rather than risk losing a little girl. Well, they tried to, anyway. My mom's pill failed, and I was the result. Somehow, she managed to keep me alive into adulthood, breaking the curse, but that didn't mean I was some kind of prophet or whatever. I got lucky, nothing more. I turned off the machine and sat back in my chair. The last thing I need is you going into a vampire nest thinking you've got protection when you don't. I never mastered that sigil, and Cinder paid the price. I can't lose you, too. A shadow crossed her features, her gaze shifting downward before meeting mine. We're going to find her. Are we? She searched for Mom and Dad for months, insisting they were alive, and now she's gone too. Who's next? You or me? We won't find her. Her jaw tightened. I couldn't tell you how many times we'd had this conversation, yet no matter where we looked or what we tried, our sister had vanished, and I was to blame. Okay, speed and strength will do. She pressed her lips together, giving me what she probably thought was an expression of sympathy. It looked like pity to me, and I was not having it. I picked up the machine and returned to her sigil, losing myself in the rhythmic pulse of the needles.